It is inevitable that the wind whip up poetry, that the rising sun raise demands for drama, that the day pulse with sudden meaning, that silent surges of energy from unknown sources stir consciousness and expression. My feet, planted on the ground, are part of the same body whose hand, in an upward motion, can reach upward and outward into the limitless expanse beyond my fingertips, connecting with other forces in the fullness of time and space. These lines, now freed from my consciousness, greet you at some unexpected time and place. It is a greeting not to be seen only as cast in my words, but felt in the fluid passage of this and every moment as a force flowing in a dimension all its own, connecting me to you, one to all, through vast undulating waves, loose binding bands weaving through a universe, both as real and as insubstantial, as the solid earth I press beneath my feet, as my hand is extended to you. How do poems get made? How do poems get made? It's magic. I wait for the magic to make a poem, or labor upon a poem to make the magic. It all comes from, or strives to reach, the realm of sun and soul, and bask in the blinding light, or in the deep darkness, find new eyes, where the unseen sky hovers over the timeless and boundless wonder that is all in all. There is a magical poem that I wrote with regard to someone who's here. Some of you have met him. This was a magical time, the last time that I visited Tarkio, with my wife Rita. That was in 2018, about a year before she died. And we visited my son Matthew in Omaha. And Rita had always had a real liking for Squaw Creek. And we used to bring the kids there. This was, 1969 through 73. And it was a magical experience. I have a lot of nice faded snapshots of the birds taking off on the flyway. Just a flood of wings and the two kids looking back at me into the camera. Types, small guys. Well, they're now in their 60s. Time flies, and this poem is called Flyways, and it's for my son Matthew. Humans, like migratory birds, have their flyways to which they return to keep the cycle of meaning alive, whether annually or over decades. Near the great sanctuary, a flyway for migratory birds, was a college town. My son remembers more than I did about that little community, where he was a child and learned so many things on his own and donned a nobility which stays with him to this day. He recalled his past on a visit to that town, where he and his family lived. A place once home to a historic college, no longer in existence. He still knew every house and patch of ground and past community doings better than his parents. As his parents, whose adult cares were of providing for him and for their family and focused on their own relationships, concerns, and careers. Only to sometimes forget in the space of years where each and every landmark and place and thought had so preoccupied him in that vanished world, recalled to life in memories flooding from him throughout the day. As the night settled over the roadway out of town, somewhere near the now darkened flyway, the stars blinked in eye-filling amazement, light years away. You know, we all have been looking at snapshots this afternoon. This is a poem about looking at snapshots. The faded photos sifted from the box in the storage closet tell many forgotten tales of life once lived. But there is a future yet to be had, a future without the color and composition of hindsight. In the void of age, opening in the blink of an eye, no pictures yet taken, no clear and confident lines, no brave flourishes, no mindless swagger. I try to fathom the wonder of my absence and presence in these flowing ahead and behind, and why these snapshots sustain and define my hold on a fading past, and what those taken in the future might reveal in their moment of discovery. The idea of living the good life will be something we will be dealing with in the second half of this presentation with a panel of some of you who've agreed to discuss that. There is something that sticks in my mind. You know, when you write a poem, there is maybe a single image that sparks it. It's a prompt. It's something that gets things going. I don't have my hat on now, but maybe I should, because this poem is entitled Hat. Driving through the countryside on two-lane roads through the hills, my hat feels more and more comfortable as the land takes shape. The sprawl of the city is far behind. At the cabin, I emerge from the car with my hat on into the broad, lushly swaying shadows of a sunny summer afternoon. Alongside the creek, the bottom of a deep crease in the mountains, I stand as in eternity. My hat completes the cover of the foliage. Driving back, I take off the hat in the car several times And as I thread into the traffic, I seem to need more circumspection than the brim will allow. The mood that my hat drew over me in the mountains is being pushed away in the haze. I don't so eagerly anticipate getting out of the car here in this steaming miasma of money and modernism that needs more than the cover my simple hat can provide.
Nice.
There's a duo of two poems here. Incidentally, that cabin was in the North Georgia mountains, and it's where I wrote my first book, Drawn by the Creek. The next duo of poems talks about, in my estimation, what two views of the past and one of the future. The first one is called Roadside America. There was an actual place like this near Reading, Pennsylvania, where a massive display was in an exhibit hall. And I'll tell you about that in this poem. And it was called Roadside America, the actual place. Roadside America. You missed it. Go back. At the next exit. Go back to a world created in the first half of the 20th century. A world long a thought in the mind of its maker, taking form from many years of labor in some obscure workshop, a basement or a garage. The vision springing from a model railroad display, enlivened with a multitude of other little buildings and scenes along the tracks. Once set in motion, hard to stop, to be content, to rest, with one thing leading to another, the design expanded, the space on the side of the tracks, between the grove of trees and the waterfall descending into the valley, an ideal place for a gas station on the roadway coming out of town. An empty stretch on the mountain above, ideal for an inclined railroad. And then the maker put in mind of his idyllic village back in the old country, somehow made a place for it, backfilling, fitting it in, historical remembrance, casting the scene a little out of scale with the rest, as had happened in other places along the different gauges of running track. We now gaze upon a lost but enduring world, honored in its display, illuminated by lamps from above, but mainly from within the multitude of little buildings, all emitting a glow that shines through the windows from little hidden bulbs inside. We marvel at the day passing into night and back again, inside this exhibit hall, glimpsing in the darkness a world yet to see, interstate highways, a world asleep without the hum of traffic, a world whose brightest lights glowed in the heart of the city, in the roadside factory, its night shift faithful in industry to the break of day. As the lights in the hall come on again from above, the sunrise reveals a multitude of trees in their faded autumn colors, old fabrics from the maker's loom, seeking to give bright contrast to the dreary green carpet of grass. We come to all this and marvel as before a shrine. Entranced, road-weary pilgrims captivated and contemplative, hearkening to a revelation made off the interstate. You missed it. Go back. This next one is called Driven Mad. It was published in an anthology that came out of China, in a bilingual anthology. I visited China with 18 other poets and 25 Chinese poets, and this is from that anthology, and the title of the anthology was Madness. And the poets who participated were asked to give an essay and write write something on it. Okay. Driven Mad. Pterodactyls from distant, darkest nights scream from lost millennia. A choking gray dawn reveals a bloated bellies bursting in the heat of the rising sun. Buzzards circling over endless stretches of concrete-covered ground, flooded in ordure and putrefaction. 3 rotted wooden crosses on a gruesome hill cast shadows over a highway. Money managers speed in haste to sell salvation. All salesmen, money changers, in church and in state and in the hallowed halls of commerce. Throughout the steaming land, hawking salvation, down the slopes of theft and addiction, indulged and saved simply by saying so. No one is hanging on the wooden crosses on the hill. The Christ and the 2 thieves have long since jumped to the power and the glory of the scorching pavement and the rough places below. Angels failing to waft them from the greed, the corruption, the wars, the lies, the deceit. No rock of ages, no God in heaven, no God on earth, only the lure of the endless road, beckoning progress to a destination unknown and unimaginable. Let's talk about age a little. Age is no stranger to us in this room. And I'm sure that many of us have had medical procedures which are the privilege of advancing years. and one of those I will describe. Conscious sedation. We all know what that is, right? Your life is lived and forgotten like the time spent in a colonoscopy. Under memory-erasing sedation, experiencing but unable to recall everything that happened. It is perhaps best you are left only with the present. Your history, when recalled, is distorted. Its dark lacunae, holes, its dark lacunae filled in by supposition and imagination. Better to awaken to the sleepless and mysterious profusion of the present, perplexed in exhilaration, distant from the strange repose before what is now. Age also has a micro to a macro dimension. Macro to micro. In the proud power of youth, everything is massive solid, imposing, all there at our disposal. In age, everything shrinks. Suddenly, the microscopic becomes important. Vision becomes dependent on what happens at a microscopic level on the retina. Health is assessed from analysis of small blood samples. What was once strong and solid now appears fragile and fragmented. A simple fall becomes a catastrophe. The mindless sweep of life now becomes a series of smaller episodes. Looking up, there is pleasure from what can be seen in the flight of birds, attention to dogs, attention to grandchildren. Observation, however, supplants action. Where once we stood with what loomed large and imposing and had grand notions about possibility, now dwindles down to the small victories of daily exercise that supplant the grand march. Must not forget there is a happiness that I think is achieved in age. This one again goes back to my cabin in Georgia and the book called Drawn by the Creek. And this is real, and I hope all of us here have felt it at some time or another. The happiness, going up to the cabin again where I took off, kept my hat and took it off going back into the city. Here I am back there. Finally, it settles upon me. It has been a long time coming, but I was going